Hello and welcome back to another episode of Practical Penmanship. Today we'll be taking a look at the ubiquitous Lamy Safari, touted by many as the best starter pen. In this review, we're going to take a look at the design of the Safari, measurements and comparisons, and finally a writing sample. The Lamy Safari was introduced in 1980 to fill a younger niche. However, it's gained almost a cult following from people of all ages. The thought starts in the finial, which is different for each Safari variant, of which there are four: the fountain pen, rollerball, mechanical pencil, and last and certainly least, the ballpoint. The other finial clearly states that these are German pens, something that Lamy takes great pride in. The paperclip-like brass clip brings to mind the connotations of ruggedness brought out by the Safari name. It has a good amount of tension and does a very good job clipping to thicker garments. The barrel of the Safari is yet another idiosyncrasy found on this pen. As you can see, it starts out round here at the end, like the cap, but it has these two flat sides, and it contributes to the interesting profile of this pen. As you can see, one of the sides has the Lamy logo embossed deeply into it. If you want, since the barrel has two catch points, you can actually rotate it so that the Lamy logo is facing the other side. I know some people are bothered by that. You'll also notice the ink window, which helps you see the ink levels on your cartridge or converter. This is a proprietary system used only by Lamy, and one blue cartridge is included. However, a converter is around $5 extra. Another thoughtful design is the notch here, which fits in well with the converter and makes certain that the converter will not easily come loose from the pen. And it doesn't. The converters that Lamy uses are good in the sense that they don't leak or anything like that. However, they're a bit limited in capacity, which is a common problem in many converters, and they're also a little bit stiff out of the box. I find that the piston doesn't quite travel as smoothly as I would like. The way you can alleviate this to a degree is to stick a Q-tip loaded with silicone grease into the opening of the converter and swirl it around the walls and allow the piston to travel up a few times to move around that lubricant. One of the most odd things about the Safari, and probably one of the most polarizing, is the shape of the section, which, as you can see, has these two rather severe indents. They're well suited to someone who has a tripod grip. However, if your grip is a little bit different, you may find these uncomfortable. I think they're just fine, but it's something you might want to try out. And I think you can, because Lamy Safaris are really common. Like, even among places that don't typically have a lot of fountain pens, they usually carry a Lamy. One more thing I'd like to point out in terms of wear: this pencil has seen quite a lot of use pretty much every day, and you can see that the sandblasted finish has gotten a little bit shinier as compared to this Petrol Safari, which is pretty much brand new at this point. This is similar to the flagship Lamy 2000, where some people call it patina. However, it's really not. It's just the surface being worn down. For the writing sample, we're going to be using Rhodia paper. As a note, I don't prefer to post this pen because of the added length. This is the medium nib, which is rather broad, typical of a Western medium. It's quite smooth. There is a little bit of feedback, a bit more than you would find with the unplated Lamy nibs, I believe. I personally think it's quite nice. It's very smooth and it's decently wet, as I shall demonstrate. Even though that this one is almost out of ink. In fact, they both are. In this other pen, we have an extra fun. This extra fine nib is definitely noticeably finer than the medium. It's a little bit drier, it has a little bit more feedback. However, I'd say it's still very smooth. One thing I commend Lamy for is that their feedback, that the feel of their nibs is actually rather consistent between the various nib sizes. But as you can see, the medium is definitely a lot wider. For those curious, I also have a fine nib. This nib's being stubborn. You can see it takes a little bit of patience and probably a paper towel if you're going to do this when the pen is inked. It's holding on. Okay, there we go. We got it. You can see it can get quite messy if you're going to do this with the pen ink. You have to give it a second if you're going to swap mid ink. So one thing I have to commend Lamy for is the consistency of their nibs. All three of these wrote out of the box with no problems. And that's not something that you see with every fountain pen. And that's one of the reasons why I would recommend this pen to a beginner. And I'll discuss more of those later. But you can see that the fine nib is a little bit thicker than the extra fine, as it should be. All three of these nibs are very good writers. They're very consistent, especially over long writing sessions. They don't have any issues with ink flow, drying up a little bit, or anything like that. They're just no nonsense, consistent writers, which is something I really, really appreciate. This fine nib is also rather wet. This extra fine nib seems to be a little bit drier, although this is an Ergo ink, and I think that is contributing to that a little bit. Also, too, is the fact that the pen is almost out of ink. I think the Lamy Safari is an excellent choice for anyone looking for a new fountain pen, particularly if you're a beginner, because these pens are rugged. They come in many different colors, many different textures, well, really two, but they're just great all around writers, solid, consistent, and that's really all I can say about these. And I think that's the best characteristic of them. They always write when you need to, and they're just always there. They're a Bauhaus companion that's inexpensive relatively, although they are a bit more than, say, a Pilot Metropolitan. However, I think that that is justified if you are fine with the grip section. That isn't to say that the Metropolitan is perfect either. The grip section is quite narrow, and there's a rather annoying step down from the barrel to the section, which I just find rather uncomfortable. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you found this video useful. If you want, you can check out the Facebook page where you can get updates on reviews, as well as extra content, including pen drawings. Not drawings as in you're gonna win a pen, but they're drawings of pens. Who doesn't want that? I almost forgot to mention the counterfeits. Be careful. There are a lot of these, and I recommend only buying from trusted sellers, especially the special editions. They tend to be copied and then sold on eBay, and it's almost indistinguishable from a real one, sometimes in the pictures at least. Just be careful.